There's one thing that I'd really encourage you to do when you're looking at these sessions, and that is to relate it very much personally to your own situation as a leader or as a manager. And I'd just like to encourage you to always look for the how-to tips. Look for practical ways that you can put some of this into practice. And I've got, I think, a very good story of how to put some of this into practice. I've talked a lot about standards, and I've talked a lot about standing up for your principles. And one of my current clients, in fact I've been working with this person for about 5 or 6 years now, is a CEO of a major bank in Europe. He's CEO of the retail division, so he's got thousands of clients, hundreds of thousands of clients, and he's got 5,000 or 6,000 staff. So a very important person, and I work with him personally to continue to develop his leadership skills. He's very experienced, very senior, very successful, but to his credit, he's working on his leadership skills and his management skills and challenging himself day in and day out, and that's a tip that I would give yourself. But what he's also done, and you may well want to do this yourself, he's developed his own code of practice. And when I first met him these 5 or 6 years ago, it was very interesting. One of the first things he did was he pulled the code of practice out and he said, that's what I stand for, that's what I represent, that's the essence of me as a human being, and not only as a human being but as a leader of my team of 5,000 or 6,000 people. And when I ran through the code of practice, there were only 4 or 5 points. He talked about honesty, he talked about integrity, he talked about being the leader that he knew he could be. He talked about a real passion he had for governance, as he called it, that the people that worked in the bank where he worked needed to do things properly, they needed to do things the right ways, they couldn't compromise on their standards. And he always wanted accurate work, and he always wanted work that was up to the bank's standards. So these were the 3, 4 or 5 points that really stood him in good stead when the difficult moments came along. He would go back to his code of practice and say, well, if I'm going to be true to these codes of practice and the things that I've proven to myself are very important to me, then I'd better live by it, because people know me and they would expect me to. And he expects himself to. In fact, he demands of himself that he lives up to those. I think that's a wonderful thing to do, and something that you could do. What are the things that are important to you? But there's one tip there I'd suggest is when you do that for yourself, then just put it alongside your own organisation's values and mission and vision and any other standards that they have, and just make sure that you're in alignment with that, because it's no point in being, if one of your standards and one of your codes of practice is to be extremely entrepreneurial and to take risks and to be outlandish, and the institution or the organisation you're working with has got a standard or a value which is conservative and is all about governance, then it may be just a misfit. So it's important that you just don't go off on a tangent to the standards and values that your organisation has. And to his credit, my CEO friend, he has run that test many times and is comfortable that his personal standards do match the standards of the organisation he's with. So it's a wonderful tip. I've seen him use it, I've seen him refer to it, and I think it'd be great for yourselves, either as a team or individually, to talk about this and see whether it would stand you in good stead too in your own leadership aspirations.